Alright folks, today we are going to talk about a topic called status profile. Status profile. A status profile is associated with a transaction or a line item in a transaction. But before I go into the technical details of a status profile, let me talk about a simple business scenario for you to understand really why status profile is required. A simple scenario, for example, could be a quotation that requires some approvals. Let's say there is a company that does sales orders, let's say worth 200k or 300k or 400k. These are really big orders, right? And these orders are generally taken with the quotation in place. These orders are generally taken with the help of a quotation first. So there will be a quotation that is given to the customer, quoting a particular price and other conditions. And that quotation, because it's a big ticket item, needs to be approved by some manager. Let's say the field sales guy goes out and gives a quotation for 200k, and then there is some negotiation with the customer. Let's say the customer says 180k, and then the salesman sticks with 190k and finalizes the quote at 190k. But he might not have all the authorization to give that discount. So somebody else, maybe his supervisor, needs to approve that quotation before it's converted to an order. So how do you achieve this? There needs to be some check in place where we can have different statuses at the quotation level that somebody can approve before taking it forward and creating an order. Now this was one example with a quotation, and we can take another example, let's say with an order. Now this 300k equipment, let's say, is a power equipment, let's say, for a power generation company, let's say Southern California Edison, which is located in Southern California. It's a power generation company, so it requires a ton of those heavy machinery. And let's say we are the company selling that heavy machinery to that company. Now as soon as that company places an order to purchase that equipment, now there are different stages that order is really delivered in, because it's not a regular small order, right? So Southern California Edison, being the company, it's a power generation company, they have placed an order to supply a particular piece of machinery for 300k. Now this company, the delivering company, will have to first start the site verification, because it's, let's say, it's a big piece of machinery. So where are they going to keep it? Are they going to keep it in a place conducive to the working and operating conditions of that machinery? If not, then the company has to ensure that the respective locations and conditions are in place with Southern California Edison. And even after the installation is done, or even after the validation is done, maybe a supervisor needs to go and run a checklist on top of that just to make sure it's really safe to go and install it. A simple example over there could be, for example, whether it has all the necessary power connectors that are required. Does it have the required voltage? Does it have the required cooling? Maybe a water pipe needs to come in. Does it have the required cooling conditions? So on and so forth. Only after all of this stuff is done and the supervisor goes and validates it, only then a delivery can happen. But until that point, you cannot even deliver that order. Now, mind you, this is not as simple as a delivery block, because there are a number of stages that this order has to go through. If it were just one stage, we would have done this with a delivery block very easily. But there are a number of stages, and we need to walk through these stages lock and step. Meaning we can go to one step, we can go to the next step, and then maybe we can come back to a previous step, or maybe you go 4 steps forward and then maybe you can only come 1 step backward. There is a particular workflow that can be set up, and that's all done using status profile. Right? Now, with this business scenario in mind, let's first start with the configuration. The configuration is really simple. There are one or two tricky things here and there, but we'll talk about all of that. Let's start with the configuration, do an example finally, and then try and achieve a simple business scenario first. Alright, here is the configuration. As usual, go to SPRO, IMG, and then Sales and Distribution, Sales, define and assign status profile. So parallelly, let's try and do it in the system. There we go. SPRO, IMG, Sales and Distribution, Sales, Sales Documents, define and assign status profile. So when you click on that, first you have the definition. So define status profile. Alright, let's select that and click on choose. So as usual, there are a whole bunch of status profiles that are predefined because this is an IDES system. Let's pick up a simple status profile and look at what's really inside it. So once again, you go to this transaction, or you don't need to remember that transaction. You can just go to that path, click on define status profiles, and then let's pick up a simple status profile called ZQT that is delivered as part of any standard IDES. This is a quotation workflow. It's a very simple workflow that we're going to look at right now. Alright, let's go back here then. So go to position, select ZQT, select that status profile and click on the magnifying glass to look at the controls behind it. There are 3 different statuses. The first status is abbreviated as NAPP, which is a short form for not approved. The second status is abbreviated as APP, again a shortcut for approved, and REJE, a short form for rejected. Now these statuses can be defined by you the way you like it. Now if you don't want NAPP, you can have NA01 or Z01. It's really up to you. You can have the status name and status description as whatever you like. And each status will have a number. just like the way we have numbers, number ranges in or rather sequences, 10, 20, 30, 40 in access sequence, or 10, 20, 30, 40 in a pricing procedure. We have status numbers which just represent a sequence in which these statuses should appear. So first we want to have not approved as step number 1 and approved as step number 2. Rejected could be step number 3. Now we're going to see how these statuses are really going to be useful when we go back and forth between the different statuses. Right? And that's what you see here. Status. So this is status. And then we have a short test, which is a description of what that status represents, so that the user can easily understand what that status really means. And if you click on this button, you can have a long text for it, which is a more elaborate description that the user can see when he double clicks on that in the transaction. So whatever we are doing right now is all SPRO. We are configuring the system, right? And then we have something called initial status, which is this little flag over here. So one of these statuses can be marked as an initial status, meaning as soon as a document is created, or for that matter, as I said, a status profile can also work at the line item level. Even line items can have statuses. Only certain items can have statuses. For example, when you are generating and when you are selling a power generator worth $5 million, and then some cables worth $1 million or sorry, $100,000, you're not going to really be bothered about giving statuses to those cables. You are more interested in the big equipment and giving statuses to it, so that the pricing, the delivery can be controlled. Right? So that's the reason why SAP also provides statuses at the line item level. For now, we are going to only look at the status profile at the header level, because it's at the line item level, it's just going to be an extension. Same configuration, no difference. I'll tell you where it's different. Now, coming back to the initial status. As soon as a document is created, for example, let's say a document of type ZOR is created. This document type is assigned to a status profile ZQT. Then as soon as this document is created, it will have these three statuses, with this status as marked as initial. Alright. Now we're going to see that example as we go forward. When we finish this piece of configuration in the next couple of slides, we're going to create our own document and assign the status profile to it and see the effect of initial status, and we're going to see all the different statuses when we try and create a document of that document type. Alright. Now there is another tricky thing called the lowest and highest. I'm not going to talk about it at this point. It's a little confusing to understand, not very useful, so you don't need to really bother about it if you don't understand it too much. But I'm going to revisit this once you get a hang of this whole status profile. Right? And another thing is the auth code. So similarly, when I revisit the lowest and highest status profiles, I'm also going to talk about the authorization code. All right. Now first, let's get the baseline running, and then we'll move on to talk about lowest, highest, and auth code. All right. So this here is where you put the long description. We've just talked about it, and each of the status in the status profile. A status profile is, quite simply put, a bunch of statuses. Each status in the status profile will have a certain set of business transactions that can be performed. For example, this status indicates that creation of a billing document is forbidden, creation of a delivery is forbidden, creation of an order is forbidden. Where is an order? Delivery, inquiry, quotation, create a sales document. See, goods issue is prohibited. So for each status, you can control the different types of transactions that can be performed on it. For example, if we have a quotation called ZQT1 or ZQT5, whatever, and associate this status profile ZQT to it, as soon as it is created, it will go to a status called not approved. So this will go to a status called NAPP. This is the initial status. In this status, what are the transactions that can be performed on this document? Let's say we created this quotation and the quotation number is 200000021, and now we want to create an order out of it. So create an order OR with respect to this quotation. Can you do it? Well, it's not an approved quotation. We don't want to create or allow creation of an order with reference to an unapproved quotation, right? So we control what can be done with respect to a particular status, or what can be done to a particular transaction which is in a particular status, by just selecting that status, clicking on this controls, and you can say, for example, that you can in fact create a sales document, for example, and then it only give a warning. So you don't want to really prohibit an order from being created, but maybe give a warning saying, hey, you know what, this quotation is not approved yet. Maybe you don't want to create an order. Or if your business strictly forbids or prohibits an order from being created with reference to a quotation that's not, or rather that's in a not approved status, then you just select forbidden. Alright, so moving on, here is a more complicated example. This example is what we are going to create, ZORDINS. It's not there in the system yet, so we are going to create this status profile. I'll give you a business background behind it, and then we're going to create all of that just the way it's shown here. Alright, but before we do that, let's take a simple example, and the same example that we have taken, the quotation example, and try and work it out. Alright, so let's first go to sales order document type. Alright, so do we have anything similar to a quotation? Alright, I think this is one of the quotations that we have created as part of our original one of our training programs. So let's take this quotation type, ZQT1. Look at that quotation. Yeah, it's really a quotation because I know the document category is B. Okay, so let's take this ZQT1 and associate a status profile to it. The same status profile ZQT, or maybe a modification of it. Okay, define and assign status profile. So go to define status profile, go to ZQT, select it, and then click on copy. Right, so I'm going to go here and then show you these steps one by one, or rather let me show it to you here before I go to the complicated example. Edit, insert page, create new status profile. as a copy of ZQT in our case, because there is an already existing example. So let's use it and try to create a copy of it. Okay, so select your quotation or status profile and click on the copy button. Right, select it, click on copy. Alright, we want to name it as what? ZQT1, let's say. Okay, custom code approval status profile. Click on continue, and then we have ZQT1 there. Alright, okay, so what we have done here is clicked on that and clicked on the copy button, created a new name, new description, and then click on continue. So we have a new status profile here. So select and then look at the controls here. Let's change the names for a bit. We can call it 10, we can call it 20, we can call it 30. All right, we can call it whatever names we like. Let's say not approved, approved. Just give it different names, doesn't matter. I just want to show you that you can have whatever names you like. All right, and then let's leave this lowest and highest for now, it doesn't really matter. So put 10, 90, because you have changed the numbers, right? Then we're going to change those numbers. And here is another thing that you want to just make sure. This is the trick. Okay, so let me just take this picture. This is where most people go wrong, I mean, in terms of doing it right, when they want to practice on it. So you can change the name, you can have any name and description. Okay, and then we want to have this as the initial status. That means when we create that document that is assigned to this status profile, we want this status to be the initial status, and we can of course change it at a later point in time. All right, insert another page and select this and click on controls. So in the control section, you make sure that you have all the respective set of business transactions and the respective statuses set properly. Now if you don't copy and create your own, all right, if you don't copy and create your own, like I copied from ZQT and created ZQT1. Now let me put another status. Okay, this is going to tell you the difference. And then final, let's say there's a status called finalized. Okay, select it, then go there. You see there's nothing here, no business transaction. So when you create your own different statuses, or you create a new status profile from scratch, you're not going to have any transactions here against the status. So what do? You just click on this new button. It's as simple as that. Okay, and then you're going to set your allowed status accordingly. You want to allow, disallow, forbid, whatnot. It's really up to you. And then click on save. This is important. Create new status final for ZQT1 status profile and save. Okay, saving this is important. If you don't save this, go back, you lose it, even for that particular status. Okay, and then of course you have to save it again. All right, now another gotcha. So let me just take this picture so that you know what to do. You see, actually it's gone again. Why is that? So go here and then select this guy and then click save. Go back. Let me see if it works again. Ease. Okay. What happened there? Okay. Go back. Now let's see again if it, yeah, those statuses are there. All right. So let me just show it to you. So when you create a new status, all right. If you created a new status, okay, first thing you got to do is select that status and go here. Step number 1. Okay, when you go there, step number 2 is to click on this new button. First step, and step number 2 is to click on this new button, and then you'll have all these different transactions. And step number 3 is don't forget to save. Okay, very important, don't forget to save. All right, so now that we've got ZQT1, now save it, go back, and the second step is assign the status profile to a particular document type. Okay, we have created a status profile. Assign status profile to document type. Now if you want to do it at the line item level, you know what to do. You assign it to the item categories. But for now, let's do it only at the document type. So select this, and we know the document type that we want to assign it to, ZQT1, right? So go there and assign the status profile in one of these places. Where is it? Must be somewhere here. Status profile. All right, there you go. We don't want this, we want ZQT1, our own custom status profile. All right, so let me just show it here. Then assign it to ZQT, this status profile. Okay, we are done here. So let's go back, save, of course, save it, and we're done here. Let's go back all the way. So let's go create a quotation. All right, so test ZQT1. We want to create it in the sales org 1000 1000 as usual. And enter our favorite customer. You can use any customer, any sales org, it doesn't really matter. Now how do you go look at the status profile? Go to header status. Okay, this is how you look at the status profile at the header level. Okay, so you have created a quotation of the particular type that we have chosen, and then now we are going to header status. So go there, header and status. Then you'll see a little button there called the object status. All right. Oh, this is a trick. So go here and then click on the status tab and click on object status. When you click on object status, you'll have a whole bunch of these statuses that we have configured. Let me go to the next page and then we'll see how these statuses operate. Okay, so you go there and you'll see a number of statuses there. So these were the statuses, right? And when we said initial, we said not approved is initial, right? So this one is initial. That means the current status as specified by this radio button is initial. And then we have all these different statuses. Now, can we go from 10 to 20? Yes, we can. Hit enter. Yeah. Can we go from 20 to 10? Yes. Click 10, hit OK. And you see what happens here. Status NA is not allowed. But why is that? Why is status NA not allowed? Right? It's very simple, right? You want to go from 20 to 10, but it says not allowed. Why? Well, the reason is, let me take a screenshot of this. So how to move between statuses. So here is how you move between statuses, right? You just select that status, hit enter. But sometimes it's not allowed. In this case, status NA is not allowed. So if I want to move from here to here, this status NA is not allowed. So why is that? Let's go to the same old transaction where we have configured everything and then see what we have configured there and why the system is not allowing us to move between those transactions. I mean between those statuses. So ZQT1, select. Then you see from the lowest highest, right? For once the status is in 20, the lowest you can go to is 20. So what is 20? 20 is really this guy. So let me put that here so that you'll get some perspective. Okay, so once the status is in 20, you cannot move back to 10 because the lowest state that is possible for 20 is 20 itself. It's not 10. But if we would have put 10 here, then moving from 20 to 10 is no big deal. Alright, so it's as simple as that. Now that is the initial status and lowest and highest. Next, there is something called as an auth code. This is also used quite widely, but it's not really in our hands. It's really the job of a basis consultant. So what is an auth code? An auth code is an authorization code that's given to user ID so that not everybody has the authorization to create or approve a code. For example, the approval part can only be done by a particular user with a particular status. So you create that status and assign that status here. Let's say these are not the right ones, but let's say some guy SCM001. Let's say this authorization code is assigned to a particular user ID, the manager. Let me 1 manager, 2 managers, 10 managers, doesn't matter. All of them could be assigned this ID, and any of them could come in and approve the quotation, meaning set that quotation to the approved status. Alright, that is an auth code. So lowest, highest, auth code, and then of course the initial status. So these are the key things against a status. Also, the next thing being, if the quotation is not approved, we have looked at the controls, right? Most of the things are forbidden, including creation of a sales order. Now we're going to see that live by trying to create an order. With reference to this quotation. Alright, So here is our quotation that we are trying to create. Okay, alright, we don't want to go to 20, and let's go here, set some dates, and set a material, and click on save. Alright, here is our quotation 200088. Control C and go back to VA01 to create an order with reference to this quotation. Let's say OR and create with reference to this quotation. Click on copy. We are able to create a quotation. And why is that? Because in the quotation we have set the status to be approved, right? So where is our quotation? Our quotation is, let's say here, go to the quotation, and we see that the status of this quotation is approved, and hence we are able to create an order out of it. But let's create another quotation, set it in status as not approved, and then see if we are able to really create an order with respect to that quotation. Alright, the same thing as we have done just previously, but previously we have changed the status to approved, but we're going to let the status remain as it is in the not approved status, which is the initial status. So go to header, status, object status, it is in not approved status. That's fine, we'll save it and try to create an order out of it and see the result of it. Okay, so here is our quotation, and let's create an order with reference to this quotation. There we go. Then click on copy. Here is the error that you get. It's not allowed because trying to create an order with respect to a quotation in 10 not approved status. Alright, this is how status profile works. Now we'll take the other example. I'll not do it, I'll ask you to do it as an assignment. So here is what you have to do. The scenario being, the same Southern California Edison is the customer. We are selling him a big power generator. It costs $5 million. So we want to reasonably ensure that the place is ready, it has all the necessary equipment, the cables, the coils, and the place, the conditions, etc., etc. So we're going to create a status profile and assign it to an order like this. The first, not initialized, meaning nothing has been done. The second thing, initial registration done, meaning the order has been placed and the customer called us and said, yes, we are ready, start the installation. Next is a site verification, meaning one of our service engineer will go and verify the site, make sure it has everything, talk to the management and ensure that the necessary supplies, necessary conditions, necessary power equipment, everything is in place to install this big power generator. And then install validation. So the service engineer might be a junior guy, so somebody else higher up above, maybe a senior service engineer, will go and validate that status, meaning that that installation, is it really ready? Maybe do a checklist, make sure everything is ready, and then after that inspection has passed, then we'll set it to delivery, which is a signal that the delivery can happen. Now look at this lowest and highest. This is actually from one of a real example that I've done on a small project. It's not Southern California edition. It's for another bio company in the Bay Area. The lowest is 10, highest is 20, meaning from not registered, which is this, you can go to 20, which is registration done. Alright, fair enough. From 20, after the initial registration has been done, you can either go to site verification or go to install validation. One of these steps, because we have said 40 is the highest, which means you can either go to 30 or go to 40. Right? And let's look at this example. Ready for delivery means when the site is ready for delivery, you can go back to 20. From here to 20, meaning maybe something is wrong. Start the process all over again. Or you can go to the next status, which is install confirmation. Everything is done. The customer has confirmed the installation is done properly to his satisfaction. Yes, set the status to installation confirmation. Alright, so I want you to do this example. So take this status profile, run through, visualize this scenario and run through these different statuses, give them the corresponding lower and higher status, and assign it. If you create it new, you have to assign it to an object type. Okay, this is the third trick. We have talked about two tricks, how to import those profiles, how to save it. That was the second one. This is the third trick. When you're creating a new status profile, you have to always assign it to an object. Right? So where do you do it? You go here, and I'll tell you where you need to do it. Okay, and select this object types. Okay, let me just move these aside, and I'll show you where you can do this. Okay, select it, and then select that status profile, and then click on object types. Okay, select the status profile and click on object types, and when you click on object types, you'll see a whole bunch of them. You just have to select sales order or sales order line item, MNOP, QRST, sales order header or sales order item. You just have to select one of these. Okay, this is pretty simple. Don't think too much into it. It's just related to workflow, meaning technically behind the scene there is something called as business objects, bus 2032, blah blah blah. You don't need to really go there. So it's a technical thing. So the third important point is go to object types and assign it to sales order header if you're creating a new status profile. Okay, this is something that you could miss. And then you go to this new for each status. Set your business transactions accordingly. What can be done, what need not be done. Now in this case, for example, until ready for delivery is done, you really don't want to be able to create a delivery for this transaction. Right? That could be an example of how you could use these statuses to create these different business transactions. Okay, see, here is an example of whether we can create billing or not if it is not initiated. Of course you can't. You can't do billing, you can't do delivery, you can't do goods issue, which is right. And when it is ready for delivery, you can create a delivery, you can do a goods issue, right? That's how you define what can and what cannot be done when the document is in a particular status. Alright, and you assign this document to your own document type. Let's say ZOR5 or ZOR0, ZOR9, whatever document type you have, you assign that in VOV8. You assign it to this status profile. Right? Once you do that, go create an order, go to header and status, and then go to object status, and you should be able to see all these different statuses and how you move across them, right? Because a document is in a particular status, can you do the delivery? Yeah, or maybe not. And between statuses, how can you move Can you move between all the different statuses or only particular statuses in a particular sequence? And that is completely dependent on how you do lowest to highest. Alright, so that's the end of status profile. So the example that I've given you, do it in the system. Do it in the system. Post your questions in the forum. I'll be glad to help you. Thank you guys.